From the moment I was old enough to understand the meaning behind words, I knew I was different, and not in a way anyone celebrated. In my family, beauty was everything. It was praised, compared, admired openly. And I never had it. At least, that's what they made me believe. It started with small comments. "Your sister got all the good looks." My aunt would laugh during family dinners. Everyone would chuckle, including my parents. I would smile too, even though I didn't fully understand why it hurt so much. Over time, those comments became labels. Labels became identity. By the age of 10, I had a nickname I never asked for. The ugly one. It wasn't whispered. It was said openly, casually, like it was just another fact about me. "Call the ugly one. She's good at helping in the kitchen," someone would say. And I would go, pretending I didn't hear the sting in their words. I started avoiding mirrors.
I didn't want to see what they saw.
I studied my reflection once, trying to find what made me so unworthy of kindness. Was it my nose? My skin? My smile? I couldn't figure it out. But if everyone agreed, it had to be true, right? My sister, on the other hand, was everything I wasn't. She was praised constantly. Guests would bring her gifts, compliment her outfits, talk about her future like it was something bright and guaranteed. When they looked at me, their expressions changed, softer, but not in a good way. More like pity. What hurt the most wasn't what others said, it was what my parents didn't say. They never defended me. Not once. Instead, they would gently redirect the conversation. "She's very smart," my mother would say, as if intelligence was a consolation prize for being unattractive. I learned early that I had a role to play in this family. I wasn't the pretty one. I wasn't the admired one. I was the one who stayed quiet, helped out, and didn't expect much. And slowly, without even realizing it, I stopped expecting anything at all. Family gatherings became something I dreaded more than anything else. What was supposed to be joyful events, weddings, birthdays, celebrations, felt like stages where I was constantly reminded of my place. Photos were always the worst part. The moment someone pulled out a camera, I knew what was coming. "You stand at the back," my cousin would say casually, positioning me behind everyone else. If I tried to step forward, someone would gently push me aside. "Let the pretty ones be in front," they'd joke. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. It became a reflex, a defense mechanism. If I laughed first, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much. But it always did. I remember one particular wedding when I was about 14. I had spent hours getting ready. For once, I tried. I picked out my best dress, styled my hair carefully, even borrowed a bit of makeup from a friend. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't think I looked amazing, but I didn't think I looked terrible either. For a brief moment, I felt hopeful. But the moment I stepped into the hall, reality hit me again. My aunt looked at me and said, "You tried today, didn't you?" It wasn't a compliment. It was a reminder, a confirmation that no matter what I did, it wouldn't be enough. Later that night, during group photos, I wasn't just pushed to the back. I was asked to step out completely. "Too many people in the frame," they said. But I noticed no one else was asked to leave. I stood there, watching my family smile together, laughing, posing perfectly. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to be invisible. And in many ways, I already was. That night, I made a silent promise to myself. I would stop trying to be seen. Because every time I tried, I was reminded that I didn't belong in the picture they wanted to show the world. As the years passed, the comments didn't stop, they evolved. They became sharper, more deliberate, wrapped in advice that felt more like criticism. "You should focus on your studies," my mother would often say. "Beauty isn't something everyone is blessed with." She meant it as encouragement, I think. But to me, it sounded like confirmation that I lacked something essential. My sister's life was moving in a completely different direction. By the time she was in her late teens, she was already receiving attention from relatives and family friends. People talked openly about her future, marriage, proposals, opportunities. She was admired, celebrated, and constantly reminded of her worth. I was reminded of mine too, just in a very different way. Whenever someone mentioned my future, it was always tied to practicality. "She'll do well in a career," they'd say. "She's responsible." No one ever talked about love, admiration, or happiness in the same way they did for my sister. It was as if I was being prepared for a life where emotional fulfillment wasn't expected, only responsibility. I threw myself into my studies, not because I was passionate, but because it was the only thing I was praised for. If I couldn't be beautiful, I could at least be useful. But even then, it never felt like enough. There were moments when I wondered what it would feel like to be seen differently, to walk into a room and not feel judged instantly, to hear someone say something kind about my appearance without it sounding forced or surprising. Because hope, I realized, could be just as painful as rejection eventually, I stopped trying altogether. No more experimenting with clothes. No more standing in front of the mirror, hoping to see something different. I chose simple outfits, tied my hair back, and avoided drawing any attention to myself. It wasn't just about appearance anymore, it was about protecting myself. Every time I tried, I was disappointed. Every time I hoped, I was reminded of my place. So, I decided it was easier not to try at all. I built a quiet life around that decision. I focused on routines, studying, helping at home, staying out of unnecessary conversations. The less I was noticed, the less I could be hurt. People started describing me in new ways. "She's very reserved," they'd say. "So mature for her age." They didn't realize that what they saw as maturity was actually withdrawal. I wasn't choosing silence. I had learned it. Deep down, though, a small part of me still wondered what life would be like if things were different. If I had grown up in a family that didn't define me by comparison. If I had been encouraged instead of labeled. But those thoughts felt dangerous. They led to questions I didn't want to answer. So I buried them. And for a long time, I convinced myself that this version of life, the quiet, unnoticed one, was enough. The reunion was announced weeks in advance, and from the moment I heard about it, I knew I didn't want to go. It wasn't just a small gathering, it was the family event. Relatives from different cities, even from abroad, were coming. It would be loud, crowded, and filled with the same familiar faces and the same familiar judgments. She barely looked up. "You should. People will ask about you." That was exactly what I was afraid of. In the days leading up to it, the house buzzed with excitement. My sister was planning her outfits, discussing hairstyles, coordinating accessories. My mother helped her, offering suggestions and compliments. No one asked what I would wear. So I chose something simple, something safe. A plain outfit that wouldn't attract attention because attention, in my experience, only led to discomfort. The day of the reunion arrived, and as we walked into the venue, the noise hit me first. Laughter, greetings, voices overlapping. I felt small immediately, like I was stepping into a space where I didn't quite belong. People greeted my parents warmly. They hugged my sister, complimented her, admired her appearance. When it came to me, the reactions were brief. Polite smiles, quick nods, and then their attention shifted elsewhere. I stayed close to the edges of the room, near the walls, near the tables, places where I could observe without being seen too much. I kept my interactions short, my voice low, my presence minimal. At one point, I caught my reflection in a glass panel.
For a second, I paused.
I didn't look bad. Not the way they always made me feel. Just ordinary. Invisible maybe, but not ugly. Still, years of conditioning don't disappear in a moment. I looked away quickly. I told myself the same thing I always did. Just get through the evening. I found myself smiling more. Not the forced, polite smile I used around family, but a real one. And strangely, that made her uncomfortable. A few days later, I received a message. It was about how easily people assign roles, and how quickly those roles become permanent in their minds. I had been labeled once. And instead of questioning it, everyone, including me, had accepted it. That realization didn't make me angry. It made me aware. One day, I asked him something that had been on my mind for a while. He paused before answering. "Because you were the only one not trying to prove anything." That stood out. I didn't expect that. All my life, I thought I stood out for the wrong reasons. But maybe I had been standing out in ways no one bothered to notice. At the next family gathering, everything felt different. I walked in the same way, but I didn't feel the same.
No shrinking. No hiding. No rehearsed smiles.
just presence. And for the first time I realized, nothing about my face had changed. Only my belief had. Looking back, I used to think that stranger changed my life. But the truth is, he didn't change me. He revealed me. He showed me a version of myself that had always been there, but buried under years of doubt and comparison. My family still had their habits. Some things didn't change overnight. And that made all the difference. Because I no longer saw myself as the ugly one. I saw myself as someone who had been underestimated and finally understood her own worth.